everybody, welcome to Creed's Nightmare Creatures episode 2. I'm Creed, and today what I'm working on is a drawing I call Bloodsucking Vampire Girl. There's actually a bit of a story behind that because I originally just called it Bloodsucker, but that's not very descriptive for searches and stuff. So when I was putting it up on DeviantArt, I decided to call it Bloodsucking Vampire Girl just to get more keywords in there, so it's really due to marketing. This one just came to me out of the blue. I was just sketching it out and here it is. Actually, my first batch of horror art was vampire stuff, all based on White Wolf's World of Darkness. And I made quite a few of those, and it was a really good inspiration. Then I moved on to other stuff. I haven't really drawn any vampire stuff in a long time, so it's nice to see something like this come out of the old brain. And I would like to have all that old 90s stuff updated digitally, so I may be doing digital links in future episodes. So while we're on the topic of vampires, I just want to mention a few movies that I highly recommend. We're going to start with 1964, The Last Man on Earth, starring Vincent Price. And the creatures are sort of a mix of zombie and vampire. They're zompires. They have all the weaknesses of vampires, but they act like shambling zombies. So they sort of count as either one. So I highly recommend it. Next is 1987's Near Dark, and that's just an excellent movie with an excellent cast. It's about a close-knit tribe of violent vampires. And the interesting thing is that it actually treats the condition medically, which is really interesting and pretty unique. And the same year, 1987, also had Monster Squad, which I hope you've all seen, but if you haven't, it's not exactly a vampire movie, but Dracula is in it, and he's the mastermind of the monsters, so I think it counts. And then the last cool vampire movie of 1987 is Lost Boys. And that's just a perfect 80s mix of grisly horror and really funny comedy. And then in 1996 came my favorite vampire movie of all time, From Dusk Till Dawn. I like my vampires to be monstrous, straight from hell, not some European guy in a suit. These vampires are more likely to pick their teeth with your bones than to glitter up the place and try to be your boyfriend. And you can't miss Salma Hayek in this movie. Seriously. Now the next one, it doesn't have super high cinema qualities to it. It's a bit more like the quality of a Tales from the Crypt episode, but that's still really good. It's 1997's The Night Flyer by Stephen King. And what I really like about it is that it's a really gruesome creature, not a guy, and he really does mega damage to all his victims. So I find that really interesting about that movie. And then in 1998 we have John Carpenter's Vampires, the great John Carpenter. And that one is actually the best vampire hunter movie I've ever seen. And then in 2001, The Forsaken. Really good, violent. It's a tribe on a rampage, a lot like Near Dark actually. I really liked it. In 2002, Blade 2 comes out, and it just has such awesome villains. They're basically super vampires that eat other vampires. Just in case you haven't seen it, don't miss this one. It's really, really good. So Blade 2 just has awesome villains, and that's what makes the whole movie. Blade 1's not bad. Blade 3 could not live up to Blade 2, was the main problem it had. Then in 2004, there's Van Helsing. Now, I know some people don't like the movie, but I really liked their take on Frankenstein. He was my favorite guy in the movie. And Kate Beckinsale is a special effect all on her own. So, I'd give it a look if you haven't seen it. And then the last one I want to mention is 2007's 30 Days a Night. And the vampires are really vicious in that one. And they come in and take over the town just like a big storm. It's pretty cool. So if there's any on there you haven't seen, I recommend look them up. I'm going to put links for all the trailers in the description. Another one I want to mention, it's a TV show. If you like vampires, check out The Strain on FX. It's really good. Vampires are trying to take over the world, and these guys are trying to stop them. I really like the show. And the last vampire-related thing I'd like to mention is a video game. Now, I play it on PC. I'm not sure what other platforms it's on, but it's called Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines. It's an older game, but it's really good. The atmosphere is amazing. It has a long story, lots of great characters. I highly recommend checking it out if you're a PC gamer. So I really wanted to leave this black and white. The white parts on the dress are just meant as highlights. But to really get the effect I want, I'm going to have to use grayscale, which is no problem. It really makes a lot of cool atmosphere in the picture. And I decided to go with a light gray for the skin and save pure white just for the eyes, which I left blank because that's always creepy. And I was tempted to put in an accent color, maybe on the gem on her necklace or even a red dress. But I like how the gray gives it a classic horror movie atmosphere. Usually I like to select everything manually just to keep the drawing uniform. But if I can use one of the pre-shaped Photoshop selection tools, and I can do it without having that one part look really technical and the rest of it look hand done, then even better. And I wanted to put these highlight shapes in here just to break up the flat black of the dress and give it some actual shape. And I think it worked out cool. Now I'm a little bit torn on these arms. They are a little skinny, especially for the size of the hands. But I think that's what helps with the perspective. Since my inks tend to flatten things out, I think I had to exaggerate that to really get the effect. Plus, if she had big hulking man arms, I'd lose the effect of a hot girl turned into a vampire. And I went a little bit beastly with the hands. I didn't really put nails on there, I just made pointy fingers. But I think it really works. See, I really like the bold contrast of just the black and white, but it doesn't really read as a dark dress that way. So I really have to go with grayscale on this one. And I was going to put some blood splatter maybe on her face or whatever, but it works pretty good without it, so I just decided to leave it. Seems like lately vampires have come out of favor more for zombies. And I do draw more zombies lately if I'm going to draw horror art, but vampire stuff is still cool. Just not the teenage heartthrob kind of vampire crap that they make now. A vampire is a monster. It's not your boyfriend. So those movies I mentioned are just some suggestions. Take it with a grain of salt. Those are just the ones I like. You may have different taste from me. See, it's really coming together now that I can fill in some grays. And see, the shade layer really, really enhances the look here. And there we go. Blood-sucking vampire girl, if there ever was one. So Tuesday is going to be my Nightmare Creatures Day. But I don't want to set a schedule and then have to force myself into drawing stuff, because, like I said, that's not how my system works. So if I don't have a Nightmare Creatures to show on Tuesday, it'll be a Saturday morning episode, or maybe something different. Actually, right now, I'm working on a really cool piece based on DC Comics. I'm really excited about it. There's about 15 to 20 separate pieces I need to draw to make this exactly how I want it. So it's taking longer than my usual projects, but I think it's going to come out really, really cool. So stay tuned for that. I hope you like this horror stuff, but if not, don't worry. Fridays are going to be my Saturday morning show. And I know it's a little weird, Saturday morning on a Friday, but Saturday morning to me now is sort of like Ben Kenobi. You can strike it down, but it'll become more powerful and more free in the universe. So the way I look at it, my Saturday morning shows can pop up anywhere. And keep your eyes peeled for that comic thing I'm working on, because it's going to be cool. I'm not sure how often I'll make the episodes, but right now that project is coming along really nicely. Well, thanks for checking out my art, and have a kick-ass day. Well, horror art fans, we've come to the end once again. There's the subscription link if you need it. There's a couple of video suggestions, thumbs up and thumbs down, depending on how you feel. It's very much appreciated. And comments if you have anything to say. I'd love to hear from you. So until next time, take her easy.